Hello, welcome to IELTS Resource Center podcast, where we dive deep into the world of IELTS preparation. I am Mr. George, your host, and I'm thrilled to bring your essential tips, strategies, and expert advice to help you reach your desired IELTS score. Today, I will be bringing to you interactive learning experience from IELTS Resource Center online coaching session. Stay tuned.
All right, get ready because today we're taking a deep dive into a section of the IELTS that a lot of people find really tough.
Oh yeah, definitely.
The IELTS reading section.
Yep.
And specifically, we're tackling sentence completion questions. These can be a real challenge for many test takers, even those who are generally good readers.
Absolutely.
But fear not, you've come to the right place to figure all this out.
That's right.
Because these questions, while tricky, can absolutely be mastered with the right approach.
Absolutely. And that's exactly what we're here to do today.
Exactly. And to help us do that, we've got a secret weapon.
Oh.
A proven method developed by an IELTS expert,
Okay.
Mr. George,
All right.
from the IELTS Resource Center.
Great.
He's got this step-by-step system that has helped countless students just ace this section.
That's fantastic.
That's all about breaking down this really complex task into manageable steps,
Yeah.
removing the mystery and building your confidence.
I love that. When you're staring at this big, long reading passage and the clock is ticking, having a little structure can make all the difference.
For sure.
So before we jump into the specifics of this method, can you just give us a quick overview of the IELTS, just in case some of our listeners are new to this whole exam?
Absolutely. The IELTS, or International English Language Testing System, is basically a test
Okay.
that assesses people's English language proficiency.
Right.
It's for people who want to study or migrate to a country where English is the native language.
Got it.
And there are two versions of this test,
Okay.
academic and general training.
And we're focusing on the academic version today.
Correct.
Okay.
So the IELTS academic reading test specifically is designed to assess whether you have the reading skills necessary for university level studies.
Makes sense.
So they give you 3 long passages.
Okay.
And these passages are taken from things like books, journals, magazines, and newspapers.
Real world stuff. Real world stuff. And you have 1 hour to answer 40 questions.
Wow, that's a lot to get through in an hour.
It is.
No wonder people find it challenging.
Yeah.
So where do these sentence completion questions fit into all of this?
So sentence completion is one of several question types that you'll encounter in the IELTS reading section.
Okay,
And they're actually particularly common.
got it.
And they're tricky because it's not just about understanding what the passage says, it's about finding very specific information and using it precisely to answer the questions.
Sounds intense. So let's break it down then, starting with Mr. George's first step.
All right, step 1 is very simple, but absolutely crucial.
Okay,
Read the instructions carefully
okay,
and specifically pay close attention to the word limit,
okay.
which is usually no more than 2 words or 1 word only.
Yeah, I could see how that would be really easy to overlook in the heat of the moment when you're just trying to get to the answer and figure everything out.
Absolutely, and it's a common pitfall, even for experienced test takers.
Right.
You can lose valuable points even if you understand the passage perfectly just because you didn't follow the instructions.
So it's about being mindful and slowing down for a second.
Exactly.
Okay, instructions checked. What's next on Mr. George's list?
All right, step 2 is about getting a lay of the land. So you're going to skim the passage to get the gist of what it's about. You're not reading for detail at this point. You're just identifying the main topic, the structure of the passage, and maybe looking at any subheadings.
So it's kind of like looking at the table of contents before you dive into a chapter in a book. You just get a sense of what's coming without getting bogged down in all the details.
Precisely. And skimming efficiently is a valuable skill in a timed test like the IELTS, where every second counts.
Right, yeah. I'm starting to see how Mr. George's method kind of builds on itself, each step preparing you for the next one.
Exactly.
Okay, we've got the instructions, we've got the overall picture. What's step 3?
Step 3 is where we start to zero in on the questions themselves. So you're going to read the incomplete sentences very carefully and underline the keywords in those sentences.
Okay.
These keywords are basically your guideposts.
All right.
They're going to help you locate the relevant information in the passage.
Okay, keywords, got it. So for example, if we had a sentence like, the development of the blank revolutionized transportation in the 19th century, what would be the key words there?
That's a great question. In that sentence, the keywords would be development, revolutionized transportation, and 19th century.
Ah, okay, so those keywords are what we're going to use to go and find the answer in the passage.
Exactly. They're like your little search party.
Okay, I like that.
They're going to go out and find that answer that's hidden in the passage.
Okay, so those keywords will lead us to Mr. George's next crucial step, but I think we're going to save that for part 2 of our deep dive. So don't go anywhere. We're just getting started.
We'll be right back. All right, so we've skimmed the passage. We've got our keywords underlined. What's next?
Yeah, what's next?
This is where things start to get really interesting.
Step 4 in Mr. George's method is all about scanning the passage
Okay.
for those keywords, or more likely, they're synonyms.
Ooh, synonyms. That's where it gets tricky.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's not always just a simple word-for-word match, is it?
No, it's not. And the IELTS loves to paraphrase.
Right.
They want to make sure you're not just matching words, but that you're actually understanding the meaning.
Right.
So you might see development in your sentence, but the passage might use evolution or advancement.
Ah, so it's like a puzzle.
Yes.
You've got the pieces, your keywords, but then you need to figure out how they fit with these slightly different pieces in the passage.
That's a great way to put it. And this is where understanding context is so important.
Yeah.
Don't just jump at the first instance of a word that looks kind of similar.
Right.
You need to make sure it fits the overall meaning
Yeah.
of both the sentence and the section of the passage.
The whole context.
Oh, you found it.
That makes sense. It's easy to get tricked by a word that looks right. So,
At first glance,
totally.
but it doesn't actually make sense in the bigger picture.
Exactly. And that's where those distractors come in.
Oh, yeah.
Words or phrases that seem relevant, but are actually designed to lead you astray.
Distractors, they sound mean.
They can be, Mr. George always warns his students about them.
Do you have any advice for how to avoid falling into those traps?
Well, one of Mr. George's biggest pieces of advice is to read carefully,
Okay.
both the sentence and the surrounding passage.
Okay.
Don't just focus on individual words. Pay attention to the overall meaning.
Right.
It's like being a detective,
Okay.
looking for clues and connecting the dots.
That's good advice for life in general, I'd say.
Absolutely.
All right, so we've hopefully found our keywords.
Right.
Or their sneaky little synonyms.
Yes.
We've dodged those distractors. What's the final step?
Okay, step 5 is all about precision.
All right.
So you're going to extract the answer from the passage using the exact words. Make sure it fits grammatically into the sentence.
Okay.
Make sure you don't go over that word limit.
So no creative writing here.
No.
It's just like carefully lifting the correct answer
Precisely.
out of the passage.
Yes. And it's always a good idea to double check.
Oh, okay.
You know, plug your answer back into the sentence.
Yeah.
Make sure it makes sense grammatically.
Yeah.
Logically.
Like a final quality control check.
Exactly.
You know, hearing you describe Mr. George's method, it all seems so clear and logical. But I'm sure actually putting it into practice can be a whole different story.
Oh, absolutely. That's why Mr. George really emphasizes the importance of practice.
Right.
The more you work with this method, the more comfortable you become with each step, and the faster and more accurately you'll be able to answer those questions.
Practice makes perfect, as they say, or at least a lot less stressful.
Exactly.
You know, speaking of practice, I think now we checked in with Emeka,
Oh,
our Nigerian IELTS student
wonderful.
who's been working with this method.
Yeah, let's see how it's doing.
Okay, so Emeka is facing a passage about the challenges of electricity access in Nigeria.
All right.
He's already skimmed the passage and identified some key themes.
Okay.
What kind of sentence completion questions is he grappling with?
Okay, so he's got 3 questions that look like this. Number 1, despite having large hydroelectric dams, frequent power outages in Nigeria are attributed to blank. Number 2, blank are increasingly used by businesses as a costly alternative to unreliable grid power. And number 3, expanding access to electricity through renewable energy sources is particularly crucial for people residing in blank.
Okay, Emeka, time to put Mr. George's method to the test.
All right, so remember, step 1 is to check those instructions. Emeka confirms the word limit, no more than 2 words for each answer.
Okay,
He's already skimmed the passage, so now he's on to step 3.
all right.
Carefully reading the incomplete sentences and highlighting those key words.
He's like a detective gathering clues.
What keywords is he focusing on? Okay, for the first question, he's zeroed in on power outages, hydroelectric dams, and attributed to.
Okay.
In the second sentence, he's highlighted businesses, costly alternative, and unreliable grid power. And for the third one, it's electricity access, renewable energy sources, and residing in.
He's got to search terms. Now it's time to scan that passage.
Yes.
With those keywords in mind.
Exactly. He's on a mission to find those words or their sneaky synonyms.
Right.
Okay, so Emeka's eyes are scanning the passage, and for that first question, he finds this sentence. Despite significant investments in hydroelectric dams, Nigeria's electricity grid is hampered by outdated infrastructure leading to frequent power outages.
Ooh, I see it. Outdated infrastructure.
Yes.
Those are just 2 words.
He's found his first answer. Now he moves on to the second question. And he spots this sentence. As a result of unreliable grid power, businesses increasingly rely on expensive diesel generators, adding to their operational costs.
Diesel generators.
Yes.
Fits perfectly in that sentence.
He's on a roll. He's successfully navigated those paraphrases and distractors now. For the third question, his eyes lock on this sentence. Expanding access to electricity through renewable energy sources is seen as vital for improving the lives of people in rural areas who are often disconnected from the grid.
Wow. Emeka nailed it again.
He did.
Rural areas completes that sentence beautifully.
It does.
But wait, there's one more step, right?
Yes, there
He
is.
needs to make sure those answers fit grammatically and stay within that 2-word limit.
Absolutely. Emeka is carefully plugging those answers back into the sentences, double-checking that they make sense in context and fit within the word limit.
That's a smart move.
Yeah.
So tell me, what are Emeka's final answers?
All right, here's what he came up with using the exact words from the passage. Number 1, outdated infrastructure. Number 2, diesel generators. Number 3, rural areas.
Emeka is officially a sentence completion champion.
He is.
It's amazing to see Mr. George's method in action.
It really is.
But I'm curious, are there any instances where this method might not be as straightforward? What if the paraphrasing is really tricky? Or the answer is spread across multiple sentences?
You're right. Sometimes those sentence completion questions throw a real curveball.
Yeah.
And that's where some of Mr. George's additional wisdom keys come in.
Okay.
He's got some special tips and tricks
Oh, great.
for handling those extra challenging situations.
Okay.
But I think we should save those for the final part of our deep dive.
I'm on the edge of my seat. Those wisdom keys sound intriguing.
They are.
We'll definitely unpack those in part 3.
We will.
But for now, we'll let Emeka celebrate his sentence completion victory. Okay, we're back and ready to unlock like the final level of Mr. George's sentence completion mastery. We saw how well Emeka did with those basic steps. But you mentioned that sometimes these questions can get
Oh, yeah.
extra tricky.
Absolutely.
So that's where Mr. George's wisdom keys come in.
That's right.
And these are like those special power-ups you find in a video game
Yes.
that give you like an extra edge exactly when you need it most. Okay, so tell me about these wisdom keys.
Right.
How can they help us conquer those tougher sentence completion challenges?
Well, one of the most important ones that Mr. George really emphasizes is active paraphrasing practice.
Okay.
He tells his students, don't just read passively, engage with the text.
What does he mean, engage with like start a book club with a reading passage?
Not quite, but the idea is similar.
Okay.
He wants students to actively rephrase sentences and paragraphs in their own words as they're reading.
Okay.
This helps them internalize the different ways that a concept can be expressed.
Right.
So it makes it easier to spot those paraphrases in the questions.
So it's like training your brain to recognize those patterns of meaning.
Exactly.
Even when the words are different.
Yes, and another wisdom key that Mr. George really highlights is the importance of understanding the underlying logic of a sentence.
Okay.
Sometimes the answer might not be directly stated, but you can figure it out based on the sentence structure and the relationships between the ideas.
Okay, so it's about thinking critically.
Absolutely.
And using logic to fill in those gaps.
Yes.
Even when the passage doesn't just give you the answer.
Exactly. And this is where strong grammar skills come in too.
Okay.
Mr. George tells his students, grammar is your friend, not your enemy.
I like that.
Understanding how the different parts of a sentence work together can help you determine what type of word or phrase is needed to complete it grammatically.
Yeah, so even if you found what you think is the right information in the passage,
Yes.
if it doesn't grammatically fit into the sentence,
Right.
you're not done yet.
Exactly.
Back to the drawing board.
Back to the drawing board. And finally,
Okay.
Mr. George has a wisdom key that might seem a little counterintuitive.
Okay.
Don't overthink it.
Don't overthink it. That sounds like dangerous advice coming from a teacher.
I know, it seems ironic.
Yeah.
But what he means is, don't get so caught up in looking for complex paraphrases or hidden meanings that you miss the obvious.
Right.
Sometimes the answer is a simple word-for-word match.
It's easy to make things more complicated than they need to be.
It is.
So basically, Mr. George's wisdom keys are about being an active reader,
Yeah,
thinking critically,
absolutely.
using your grammar knowledge,
Uh-huh.
and not getting lost in the weeds.
That's a great summary.
And I think Imemika's success is a testament to how effective this approach really is.
It is.
Both the basic steps and those wisdom keys.
Yes.
Now he's got the tools and the strategies to confidently tackle even those really challenging sentence completion questions.
It does.
And what's even more exciting is that these skills aren't just for the IELTS.
Right.
They can be used for any kind of reading comprehension,
Absolutely.
whether it's academic texts, news articles,
Yeah.
or even just a complex email.
You're right. These are essential skills for anyone who wants to be a more effective reader and a more critical thinker.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into sentence completion,
Yes.
I want to leave you with a thought-provoking question.
All right.
We've talked about understanding the logic of a sentence,
Right.
but how can we use that skill, that idea of analyzing logic and structure in other parts of our lives?
Yeah.
Like how can we use it to evaluate arguments, make decisions, or even just have more productive conversations?
That's a great question to ponder. It's been a pleasure exploring Mr. George's methods with you.
Likewise, and to all our listeners out there, remember, with the right approach and a little bit of practice, you too can conquer those IELTS reading sentence completion questions.
You can do it.
Until next time, keep those brains buzzing.